Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano market update where every Monday we take a look at the biggest movers among Cardano native tokens to see what projects are on the move and some of the reasons behind that. We also usually take a look at the overall crypto market, very quick look, but today we'll dive deeper into that with the absolutely crazy weekend we've had and the massive moves we've seen in the market today. Get value, please do share it out. Give the video a like, comment questions, or even comment for the algorithm below. I do appreciate it. Let's jump into it. Okay, like every week, we'll use tap tools to go through the different Cardano native tokens. Very quick look at CoinMarketCap first, and then we will come back to this one in the second half of the video. You can see Bitcoin up 7.5% for the last 7 days, which is absolutely crazy considering where we were last Friday and everything that's gone on with the banks and USDC, which we'll dive into in a few minutes. You can see over the last 24 hours up 15%. ADA up 3% for the week. Isn't bad, but one thing is that we're losing out against Bitcoin all the time, which we've talked about before and we might look at later in the video as well. So looking at tap tools then for the native tokens, and all of the prices here are against ADA. Just like I talk about when you're looking at altcoins, you should always keep in mind or what they're worth against Bitcoin as well as the US dollar. So for these, we're looking at the price in ADA. Anyone new, what I do is I use the last 7 days here. I stick to the top 25 generally. We'll take a very quick look at top gainers and top losers just in case there's any there that don't fall into the top 25. The reason that I don't specifically use these for the biggest gainers right now is because sometimes the liquidity is very small on some of the pairs there, and when there's small liquidity, it doesn't take a lot to actually move that market. It doesn't take many orders or much even in one order to move the market by a decent few percent. Okay, jumping into the projects then, and I will do this a bit quicker than normal because there hasn't been a huge amount of movement this week, and I also want to cover the overall crypto market for a section in this as well. Looking at number one, we have EMP, which is the PAUL token. It's up nearly 15% against ADA for the last 7 days and up 31% for 30. Liquidity is okay, a little bit low, but not too bad. And PAUL is a real-fi project on Cardano that is looking to build affordable homes in Africa. One of the main reasons that I could find for maybe some movement in the token price here is they are opening up their vaults. So people will be able to stake the EMP token to get more of a return on the token then. Potentially that's one reason. It's a project I probably need to dive a bit deeper into at some point. C3 is up next then, up nearly 9% against ADA for 7 days and up 18% for 30 days. This is Charlie 3, the first Cardano native oracle on Cardano. It has been a bit quiet over the last while. We haven't seen that many partnerships announced. I seen they did say during the week about V2 launch has been amazing, integrations currently ongoing with partners. Haven't heard much on the different partners they have. We've seen some projects opt for building their own version of oracles for their V1 of the different protocols that are out there. So it would be good to see more announcements of integrations using Charlie 3. Then we have NMKR, which is up just over 5% for 7 days, down 13% for 30 days. They have added in, I seen today, they have added in Solana and Ethereum payments. It was here. There we go. Solana and Ethereum payments for anyone using the NMKR payment gateway. And as well as that, they've also had integrations with Zapier. So potentially bringing more interest into NMKR. Then we have MinSwap up next, up 3% for the last 7 days and still up nearly 75% for 30 days. So MinSwap lately has been on a really good run. Had a bit of a pullback, I think, last week, but has evened out now, and since the start of the year, MinSwap has been doing very well. It is the number one DEX on Cardano by TVL right now. And next up then we have Meld, which is up 1.6% for 7 days and just over 1% for 30 days. They have opened up the public testnet, so people are able to get into that now. I think it's 500 people get in every day. You have to go into their Discord to request the code. I did go in and request the code, but I seen you had to log in with Google then, and that kind of put me off a bit. So I haven't gone back to it yet, but I will go back to it this week and hopefully be able to report on that in my Cardano catch up next Friday. That's the top 7. We'll look at the top gainers to see was there anything else with decent liquidity. We can see X Diamond here and Zoo, Rat, all with very small liquidity. Milk up 12% with fairly decent liquidity. That is the Muesli Swap token. Muesli Swap continually bringing out new updates as well, and another DEX on Cardano that does seem to be working all the time in the background. If we go back to the top 25, then we'll look at what are the ones that have fallen away. Flak Finance down 18.5% for 7 days and 14% for 30 days. Liquidity on this one, not a huge amount of liquidity, so I wouldn't worry too much about fluctuations here. Talked about Flak before. They are a lending and borrowing protocol looking to bring fiat loans and targeting India first. So really big population there, really big crypto population there. So potential, that project has potential longer term, and it is one, again, I need to dive into a bit more and keep tabs on what exactly is going on. AGIX is the token for Singularity Net, had a massive run up from the start of the year. Over the last 7 days, down just under 16%, down 2% for 30 days. I wouldn't worry about it too much, especially people who got in earlier. It is one that longer term, AI is not going anywhere. AI is only going to get bigger and bigger, and AGIX seem to be doing a lot of really good things there. Kopi then, another project that I'm a fan of, is down 13% for 7 days, up 43% for 30 days. So for some people, they might look at this as an opportunity to get in. Some people might be worried it's going to pull back further. The only things really that I've seen potentially pushing people to sell off is the team tokens are going, the vesting is starting now. They did talk about this in a recent Kopi Cafe, loved the transparency of it. And they said about how that if any team members are going to sell, then they will be working out to have a minimal impact on the market with that. And a lot of team members have doubled their vesting schedule as well, which shows a big belief in the project. Next, we have CNETA down 12%. Once again, it's one that has been on a massive run, so a bit of a pullback here. They should be launching testnet on Cardano this month. They are bringing wrapped Bitcoin to Cardano and Ergo, mainnet for Ergo this month, and testnet for Cardano. Mira then down 11%, but still up 51% in the last 30 days. Liquidity is a little bit on the low side again. This is another gaming project building on Cardano using UE5, so it's one that I definitely need to look into. Seen it mentioned a few times in the last week. Looking then on TVL, so if we look at Cardano, you can see over the last, we'll reorder this, the last 7 days, you can see AADA is continuing to grow, up 58% in the last week, ZED up nearly 11%, and MinSwap up 10.5%, followed by Liquid at 8.3%. So ADA in terms of DeFi is growing all the time. And if you look at the overall ranking here, you can see Cardano is up to number 19 now in terms of covering every chain out there and the DeFi that's happening on them. So that wraps up Cardano Native tokens for this week, and time to look into the overall crypto market. I might look at putting a second video out on a Monday anymore, one on the overall market, one on Cardano, on native tokens, but let me know if you're interested in that, and subscribe if you're new. Looking at what happened over the weekend, so we had banks shutting their doors, we had the USDC stablecoin losing its peg due to funds locked in one of the banks that shut their doors, and generally fear among the crypto market, to pure euphoria this morning for some when the markets just skyrocketed overnight with some of the announcements and some of the, not bailouts I suppose, some of the rescue plans for people who are using the banks that have shut their doors. So diving into all of that, you can see Bitcoin right now is over $24,000. It went down to $19,500 last Friday. So massive, massive recovery since then. And if we look at USDC, it's basically on peg now. So when we talk about losing peg, that means that USDC should be backed up by $1 in the bank for every one USDC in circulation. But after one of the banks in question, which we'll talk about in a minute, turned out that they shut their doors, Silicon Valley Bank, they shut their doors, and Circle had $3.3 billion sitting in the bank. So there was worries about if Circle could actually fulfill all withdrawals if everyone went to withdraw their USDC. And you can see it lost its peg here, went all the way down to 88 cents. So there was some people who come in at this point right down here in around 90 cent down to 88 cent, got really confident that Circle would recover and started to buy it up. So for people who had belief, or people who took the gamble on it, some people made a really nice return on it going back to its peg, and right now sitting in around $1, because what happened over the few days which probably seemed like an eternity for some people, some businesses. With Silicon Valley Bank, they are the second, or were the second largest bank in the US. So them closing their doors was, if we look at this here, we'll come to Signature Bank is another one that shut their doors. But this is a post here I think is a good one at explaining things. I'll put a link to this one down below. But he talks about this is the biggest bank collapse in the US since 2008. And he's putting it down to, in March 2020, the fractional reserve banking was changed. So that meant that banks didn't have to hold near as much of the customer funds themselves to actually fulfill customer withdrawals. So they were allowed to go out, try and earn yield or whatever interest or that they wanted. And some of the banks there took some bad decisions on what they put their funds into. Some of them put them into assets, which are very volatile. Some of them locked them into bonds, into US bonds. And then as the US started to raise interest rates, that meant that the bonds that a lot of the banks had went into became less valuable. The banks needed to sell them off at a loss. And when people went to start making withdrawals here at SVB, last week I think there was 42 billion worth of withdrawals put in one day. They didn't have the funds to fulfill them. Some people have pointed out as well that crypto has a factor in this, in that banks, the SVB and Signature Bank were both fairly big banks for crypto. And people are saying that they didn't factor in how quickly you can actually liquidate your crypto, where banks are used to having maybe a few days that transfers come in and try and sort out transfers. But with crypto, you can have instantaneous, you can sell off your crypto, try and redeem it, and potentially the banks didn't have the resources to be able to fulfill that. So if you go through that post there, it explains a lot about it. I thought it was very good. We also seen this post, or I seen this one just before I went to hit record here. Signature Bank board member, former Congressman Barney Frank says regulators wanted to send a very strong anti-crypto message in shutting down the banks. He says there was no insolvency based on the fundamentals with Signature Bank. It's definitely backfiring, I think, if that was their goal for this. Potentially, that could have been the goal, but if it was, it really is backfiring. And I would say that it's starting to show that one of the strongest use cases for crypto is that you hold custody of your funds. No one else can come in and say that we're shutting the bank. We don't know if you'll ever get your money back, or you might get a percentage of it in so many years. Or if it's an FDIC insured bank, then you can get up to 250,000 back of your own money. After that, maybe it's gone. So to me, it's really showing one of the biggest use cases and one of the reasons why people should be invested in crypto. And CZ came out this morning as well and said, given the changes in stable coins and banks, Binance will convert the remaining of the $1 billion industry recovery fund from BUSD into Bitcoin, BNB and ETH. So a lot of the pump had started, or a lot of the movement up in the market had started before that. When this came out, this definitely would have added to it and given people a lot of confidence in what was going on. You can see Biden came out this morning as well and talked about how after the US banking system with SVB and Signature Bank collapsed, what they were going to do. He came out and basically guaranteed any depositors in them banks, he guaranteed their funds, that they were safe, that they would be able to get their funds. So there's a lot of tech companies involved in Silicon Valley Bank. They were very worried over the weekend of whether companies would have to start layoffs or close, and he does say that they will be going after the bank management to try and figure out what happened and hold people accountable for the complete mess that has happened there. And if we look at the next interest rate hikes, which now there's the feeling that there's something has been broken by continually rising interest rates and putting in too big of interest rate hikes, which has affected the bonds that lots of the banks had bought into over the last year or two, not being worth as much as they were when they bought into, or what they thought they'd be able to take out of them. Now there's talk that interest rate hikes need to cool down. So if we look here, the next interest rate hike is in 9 days, the next FOMC meeting. And you can see there's 27% probability that we don't get an interest rate hike. There's a 73% chance of a 25-point raise. And there was talk before this of a 50-point raise. But right now that seems to be off the table. And the majority are looking at a 25-point raise, and a growing percentage starting to look at a 0% raise. Also, we do have CPI data coming out tomorrow. And if you look at, here's a good website for people to keep an eye on as well, is Trueflation. So this looks at some slightly different metrics than the US look at and then the CPI data looks at. And it's starting to show inflation is a decent bit below where CPI data thinks it's at. Right now, crypto markets are looking very positive. If we look at Bitcoin, crazy few days for Bitcoin. For me, I'm still looking at this same level here. You can see back at this point here was just over 25,000, rejected way down. Got back up here 2 weeks ago, tested in around this a few times and got rejected down again. If we get over 25,200, pushing up towards $26,000 Bitcoin, that's when things start to get extremely interesting in the crypto market for me. Thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate it. Let me know feedback down below if you want videos like this, rambling on the overall markets as well as Cardano. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.